My name is Alex, and this happened about 2 years ago when I was living in a studio apartment in Chicago. It was an older brick building, the kind where the floors creak if you look at them wrong and you can smell what your neighbor is cooking for dinner. I lived in Unit 3B. The unit next to me, 3A, had been vacant for the first 6 months I lived there. It was quiet, which I loved. But then around November, someone moved in. I never really saw him during the move-in process. I just came home from work one day and saw a beat-up cardboard box outside the door labeled kitchen. The first few weeks were fine. I'd hear occasional footsteps or the sound of a TV, but nothing crazy. The only weird thing was the bathroom vent. The building was old, and the ventilation system connected the bathrooms of adjacent units. If I was brushing my teeth and the guy in 3A coughed, it sounded like he was standing right behind me. One night, around 1 a.m., I was getting ready for bed. I turned off the sink faucet and heard a voice. It was coming from the vent. "No, I can't do it tonight. He's still awake." I froze. The voice was crystal clear, low and raspy. I assumed he was on the phone. I brushed it off and went to bed. A few nights later, I was in the bathroom again. The vent was silent, but then I heard a click, like a lighter being flicked, followed by a long exhale. Then the voice again. "He takes a shower at 7 a.m. He leaves at 7:45. He gets back at 6:30. My stomach dropped. He wasn't on the phone. He was reciting my schedule. I stood there, staring at the little metal grate, terrified to move. I quietly turned off the light and backed out of the bathroom. I told myself I was being paranoid. Maybe he was talking about someone else. But the timings were exact. 2 days later, I called in sick to work. My car was in the shop, so my parking spot was empty, making it look like I had left for the day. I was sitting on my couch watching Netflix with the volume low when I heard a key slide into my front door lock. I muted the TV instantly. My heart was hammering against my ribs. The lock tumbled. The doorknob jiggled. It didn't open. I had engaged the deadbolt, which I only did when I was inside. Then, silence. I crept to the peephole. Standing in the hallway was a man I had never seen before. Tall, gaunt, with greasy hair. He was holding a key. He looked confused, staring at the lock. He put his ear against my door to listen. I didn't know what to do. If I screamed, he might run, or he might try to kick the door in. He pulled the key out and walked back to 3A. I immediately called the landlord. He sounded confused and told me that he hadn't given a duplicate key to anyone. He came over with the police about an hour later. When they knocked on 3A, the guy didn't answer. The landlord used his master key to open the door for a welfare check since I told him about the threats I heard. The apartment was almost empty. No furniture, just a sleeping bag on the floor and a chair positioned directly in front of the bathroom vent. On the chair was a notepad. The landlord let me see the notepad. It was a log. 11:12, coughing. 10 p.m. 11:13, shower. 7:05 a.m. 11:14, singing. 8 a.m. And at the bottom of the page, circled in red ink, key copied. Thursday is the day. The landlord changed my locks that day, and the police put out a warrant for the guy, who turned out to be a squatter who had broken into the vacant unit and changed the locks himself so the landlord wouldn't notice. They never found him. I moved out the next month. I can't shower in a bathroom with a vent anymore without feeling like someone is listening. My name is Chris, and I live in a suburb just outside of Atlanta, Georgia. My neighborhood is pretty standard. Ranches and two-story houses with decent-sized backyards separated by 6-foot wooden fences. The house directly behind mine had been empty for a year until it was sold to a single guy in his 40s. I'll call him Mr. Tate.
I never really spoke to him. He was the type who would check his mailbox and immediately sprint back inside if he saw anyone coming. About a month after he moved in, I started having trouble sleeping. One Tuesday around 2:30 a.m., I went to my kitchen to get some water. My kitchen window looks out over the backyard. I noticed a light flickering beyond the fence. I leaned in to look. Mr. Tate was in his backyard. He had a floodlight set up on the ground pointing into a specific corner of his yard. He was digging, and not just gardening. He was waist deep in a hole, shoveling dirt frantically. It was weird, sure, but I figured maybe he had a burst pipe or something. I watched for a minute, then went to bed. The next night, I woke up to a rhythmic thump-thump sound. I looked out the window. He was out there again, same spot, digging deeper. This went on for 3 nights. On the 4th day, I was in my backyard playing with my dog, Buster. I walked near the back fence. The wood slats had small gaps between them. Curiosity got the better of me and I peeked through. The hole was filled in. The ground was perfectly flat, covered with fresh sod. It looked like nothing had ever happened. "Can I help you?" I jumped back. Mr. Tate was standing right on the other side of the fence, his face pressed against the wood, inches from where I was peeking. I hadn't heard him approach. No, I stammered. Just playing with the dog. Sorry." He didn't say anything. He just stared at me through the crack in the fence. His eyes looked dead. I grabbed Buster and went inside. 2 days later, Buster went missing. I let him out in the morning to pee, and when I called him back, he didn't come. I searched the neighborhood for hours. I posted on the community app. Nothing. That night, sick with worry, I couldn't sleep. Around midnight, I heard the sound again. Shovel. Dirt. I went to the upstairs bedroom window to get a better vantage point. Mr. Tate was digging again. But this time he wasn't alone. He was dragging something heavy in a black trash bag from his back door toward the hole. My stomach turned. I grabbed my phone and dialed 911. I told them I thought my neighbor was burying something suspicious and that my dog was missing. Because of the potential animal cruelty, the police showed up quickly. 2 officers went to his door while another shined a light over the fence. I watched from my window. Mr. Tate tried to block them from the backyard, but the officer saw the fresh dirt and the black bag. They detained him and opened the bag. It wasn't my dog. It was a mannequin. A surprisingly realistic silicone female mannequin. It was cut into pieces. The police searched his house. They found 5 more holes in the yard that had been filled in. In each one was a mannequin, dismantled and buried. Inside his house, the walls were covered in photos of women from the neighborhood. Photos taken through windows. Photos of them walking to their cars. There was a photo of my wife in our kitchen. They didn't arrest him that night because, technically, burying mannequins isn't a crime. But the stalking photos got him taken in for questioning. But here's the part that haunts me. When I went to the police station to give a statement, an officer handed me something. He said, "We found this in his living room." It was Buster's collar. Mr. Tate claimed he found it on the street, but I know the truth. He had been watching us. He knew I peeked through the fence, and he took my dog to send a message. We moved 3 weeks later. I don't care about the market. I just needed to get away from the man who practiced burying bodies in his backyard.